2025 meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee will come to order. The Assistant Clerk will please call the roll.
Councillor Derlowitz.
Present.
Councillor Heglin.
Present.
Councillor Mack.
Present.
Announcement of open meeting minute recordings. The open meeting recording notice is posted on the wall by the door. Is anyone here other than staff recording? Hearing none. I'll read to the reading of prior meeting minutes, review and approval. Meeting minutes of April 7th, 2025.
Move to dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Heglin, seconded by Councillor Mack to dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented. Is there any further discussion?
I was absent from that meeting, but I watched the video, so I was able to prepare 3 minutes. So just for transparency purposes.
Thank you, Councillor Mack. Councillor Heglin, anything? Nothing. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. First time on the agenda, item 11537, a measure authorizing the Gardner Community Action Committee, CAC, to modify the structure of their lease space at the Waterford Community Center. Mayor Nicholson was unable to be here today, but did provide a letter, as well as Executive Director of the CAC, Julie Meehan. The long and short of it is that any major alterations to the lease space, according to the lease signed by the CAC with the city at the Waterford Community Center, must be approved by the City Council. CAC is requesting to construct a wall in their lease section. For those familiar with the building, walking in the main entrance, the old principal's office was to the right, the assistant principal's office, storage room, and then the library were down a smaller hallway. The plan is to build a wall to the front of that hallway, so there's more security for all the items that are being brought in the general public, for having access to it, to be a locked door there. I believe described in the letter, Director Meehan says that the wall will not reach the top of the ceiling, but will provide the security they find necessary. So that was the item presented there. If there's a motion or further discussion of the topic from the committee.
I make a motion that we pass 11537 for approval to the full council.
Seconded. Motion made by Councillor Mack, seconded by Councillor Heglin to recommend authorization of the measure to the full council. Is there any further discussion on the item?
I just think it's very clear. Ms. Meehan was very forthright in the need for the security of this area. And I just appreciate them doing it now while construction is still being done. It's not an afterthought, you know, months down the road. So I see no need for us to not approve securing her space.
Well said. Yeah, nothing else.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think it's a thorough presentation here. It's not a major change to the layout of the building. Functionally, you're still walking in the main hallway, and if you're not interacting with CAC, you're just going forward to the other sections. So I don't think there's any reason not to approve it. There's not anything further. No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. On to subsection 3 in subcommittee. Item 11482, discussions regarding the city's health insurance payments and trust fund. Auditor Richard is with us here. Thank you for being here.
Yep, no problem. The current balance on the health trust as of 4/30 came in at $1,438,042. The prior month was around that much. It was probably about $25,000 difference. Right, and I also got a stop loss report a couple weeks ago that there is about $462,704 that are basically outstanding reimbursements. So basically, we're waiting for those reimbursements to come in. So that's good news.
462,000?
Yeah, 462,704. So if those come in, hopefully before the 6:30, that'll help our health trust. The other thing that came in is the amount of claims. I got the bill the beginning of this month. The amount that came in for claims that was over the monthly deposit was $136,832. So that decreases the health trust balance. So if the reimbursement comes in and the monthly, well, like I said, the monthly deposit over claims, or over the monthly deposit was low this year. Like I said, this month, it came in at 136 versus prior months was around 400,000. So basically claims were less than prior months. The projection I have for the end of May is 1.7 million for the health trust. Again, if that all depends if that stop loss reimbursement comes in.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions from the committee?
No, like good news, good report.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trending a little healthier, so yeah.
yeah,
That's great
that's
to
what
hear.
we want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, there's any objection, I have nothing further, just like to keep this item on here for
Absolutely.
further monitoring.
I agree.
But I'm glad to hear we're tracking the right direction, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No problem.
Item 1142 will remain on the agenda. Item 11507, a report from the Ronald F. Cormier Memorial Committee. I know we have Director Cormier of the Purchasing Department here as well, who may have some information, but I don't know if there's any preliminary discussions surrounding it.
At this point, because I know Director Cormier, please come up, is getting quotes for the plaque, which he can discuss with us. I think it would be prudent at this point for us to bring back to the full council a motion to rescind the vote to name the council chambers taken on June 17th, 2024. Under item 11256, and it was amended on September 4th, 2024 by item 11382 in honor of the late councilor, at the request of his family, with the report that came back from the Ronald F. Cormier Memorial Committee, was to place a plaque in council chambers, and the family asked not to name the chambers after him. So I think we've had this item on our agenda enough that it's about time to bring it back to the council to rescind the vote, and then proceed with the purchasing of the plaque, and we can get further information by Director Cormier.
Director Cormier, you have the floor. Any information you do have about the so far?
I think it was 2 meetings ago, I was provided with the committee's quote that they had already received, which was roughly around $4,500 for a bronze plaque, 14 inches by 18 inches, which I would assume matches what's up there. I've since sought out 4 different quotes. One was for $46.50, and one was for $6,000. I'm still waiting for the 4th quote, which it'll be. So we've done our due diligence. We've done sound business practices for under $10,000. We've actually gone further than that. So at this time, I just have some additional questions to the committee on how they're going to provide the image, and after that I can provide the council with formal 3 quotes, or 4 quotes if I can get the 4th one, and then you'll have all you need for your purchase. Councilor has asked me what the turnaround is on it. I just checked right when I sat down. I still don't have an email back on the turnaround, so I can provide that when needed. So that's what you're looking at.
Appreciate the
45 to 6,000.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, it sounds good. I think if we think we have that information sooner than later, then yeah, we might as well move this forward and kick it to the full council.
The vote
At
has
least
to be
start with,
rescinded
yeah,
regardless.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the purchase of the
But good.
plaque really
We
is
could wait on.
the mayor's decision as well as to where the money's, where he's taking it from the budget. But the vote has to be rescinded anyways at some point, so I just can't see, it's been almost a year, I can't see continuing it further. And I think we should all just honor the family's request at this point.
Yes,
Makes
agreed.
sense. So I guess trying to coalesce it all together, the motion to recommend, would entertain a motion to recommend sending the report and a report from us up to the full council with a recommendation to rescind the prior vote.
And I have the dates I have written here, so I can give it to the clerk.
That'd be perfect, yeah.
Okay.
So I believe that's a motion by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Heglin, to do the aforementioned motion. Any further discussion?
Do you want me to read this as it is?
Please do.
Okay. On our agenda, it's item 11507. I make a motion to rescind the vote to name the council chamber taken on June 17th, 2024, item number 11256, which was amended on September 4th, 2024 by item 11382 in honor of the late councilor Ronald F. Cormier at the request of his family, and to purchase the plaque recommended by the Ronald F. Cormier Memorial Committee to be placed in council chambers.
Any further discussion?
if I can just one thing to add, I'll have all that information by the time you meet on Monday. So you'll have numbers, you'll have turnaround, you'll have everything probably by tomorrow afternoon, but definitely by Monday, so.
Obviously get everything to the clerk's office for
Yep,
us, and,
yep.
much appreciated.
Thank you.
That being said, any further questions on that? Sounds good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Councillor Hagan, can you hand that to the clerk? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11516, a proposal by President Tyros that the city council discuss the creation of a special committee for the Waterford Community Center project. We did have a discussion on this last meeting, obviously still on our agenda here. I don't know if anyone has anything further to add for this item for this evening. Councillor Hagan, Councillor Matt?
I do, but if you want to.
I just want to say that I watched the meeting and, you know, I think it's a great idea. I understand President Tyros's position as to why he proposed this and the mayor's explanation of how long the committee would be into effect, at least for the first year and a half of the center, to oversee policies and projects and any type of conflicts that could possibly occur within the agencies in the building. And my fellow councilors had great questions at that presentation. So, no, I just think I was very much in favor of it.
My thoughts were coming into today, and I'm glad you got a chance to see it, that it might be worth us maybe coming up with some of our more solidified ideas today. And I would be happy to also sort of formalize that for a future meeting when the mayor is here, to propose something to him to kind of get this moving along a little quicker, and we've had a lot of discussions around it. And I was thinking particularly like we were talking about what would we see for the committee, and maybe some of that scope for that group, and then I can take our discussion and perhaps formalize something for a future meeting.
That makes sense. I think scope is the big focus that we're on here now. As you stated, the time frame for the committee was kind of hashed out, and I think we've agreed upon that. A smaller group was more appropriate of 3 appointees, possibly one from the mayor, one from the council president, and then one that's shared common appointment between the two. But the scope, I don't know if anyone wants to kick off the discussion for that, or I can start as well.
Sure, I was thinking a little bit about the committee, because I know, I think we said 3, mayor said he'd be willing to go to 5. I was wondering if we did, I was one of the people that brought this up. I think having a city official there is obviously a really good idea, whether it's the future new building commissioner or if it's Director Stevens or someone else, because we'll want connection to the building for other policies and things that exist. The council liaison or another appointee I think is a good idea, where we have the president of the council as a council liaison. It might be him, it might be someone else, but then would we want to balance it with 3 other residents instead of just the one? That was my only thought, to have a little more community input.
I think it was you, Councillor Hagel, that said something too about the stakeholders being represented.
That's
You know?
what we were talking about, the scope, having them
Yeah,
come present to the group, talk with the group, but
Well,
they
yeah,
could be
but
on
they actually, I think it'd be important for them to have a common liaison on that committee, to be a voice. Not necessarily one of the directors in charge, but somebody, you know, that they could agree upon, to represent their needs and, you know, their desires and their concerns as they come. So I just think, you know, it's nice to have people on the outside. However, if you're not there on the day-to-day runnings of the building and seeing what's going on, it's really hard to
weigh in,
and yeah,
what their needs are.
exactly.
Okay, I think that, I would be open to that too, maybe a little bit bigger, and
then
adding some.
including more
Yeah.
from the, at least closely tied to the community center. Makes sense. I mean, I think in general, it's just facility. The big thing would be facility oversight and, you know, what steps are being done, what there's certain roadblocks being, you know, run into, and recommendations of how to ensure compliance with local and state regulations. I think that type of oversight is necessary. Financial oversight of how we're going to handle incoming funds, and possibly, you know, lease agreements as well, just maybe early vet them, whether we do something like that with that committee or not. Planning for just renting out the the gym, or the stage possibly too, there's still, I believe, gonna be some room in there to utilize that. So just the logistics of how you do it, how do you rent it, who you call, or is there some kind of form you fill out, or, who does it go through, which department? Were some of the things I had jotted down here, and maybe even getting the word out about its availability, and being an option to be used in the city. People are gonna have to become aware that you can use that gym. So those are my thoughts, at least so far.
It almost needs like a facilities coordinator for the equity too of the use of the building, when you have a lot of people there. You know, my whole thing, and this goes back to my school days, I mean, whether it's the auditorium at the high school or even middle school or everything, I always felt there should be one central facilities coordinator for the city, because the left hand usually doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And especially when it comes to having, needing to have custodial staff, and, somebody could say, yeah, we said they could use it, but at the middle school, but, the middle school had something on, and the whole communication part, because there are a lot of facilities that can be used within the city, for outside groups, as well as, for city departments and activities. But that was something that was mentioned a long time ago, that there should be one central scheduling person.
Yeah, that's a good thought. And I know the mayor made mention at the last meeting too, whether that's an internal, whether it's contracted, another organization, but that is something this committee, I think, could look at too in their scope. Great.
That's kind of what I have so far, unless you have anything further to add.
No, I don't think so.
Plan maybe to task, I guess, Councilor Hegland, kind of coalesce something together.
Yeah, I would happily take the lead on that.
Present it at the next meeting, and then maybe we can start to move forward from there.
Great, yep.
And unless there's anything further, just keep the item on the agenda for now.
Agreed.
And be able to discuss further with the mayor and whoever else maybe we'll have here for the item. So here, no objection, item stay on the calendar. Next we have item 11517, a proposal by President Tyrus that the city council discuss the city's current sexual harassment policy and other city policies. Director Morse of Human Resources here to for any questions you may have on the policies. I don't know if anyone has questions, comments, concerns at this point for her.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say thank you. We said it at our last meeting, but you weren't here, but thank you for, I think, taking the lead on this and updating these really old policies.
They were.
It's nice to see something more formal and fresh and modernized. Just kind of curious, sort of what went into the process, where you at with the process. I know we've seen, I think we saw social media, dress code, and sexual harassment. And I have a couple maybe follow-ups, but yeah.
Yeah. Really what I've been doing is reaching out to other municipalities to find out what their policies look like, taking bits and pieces that I think are modern and updated and make sense, and kind of just pulling them all together based on what ours are, what theirs are, just doing some basic research online and just putting together something that I feel is a good mix. I'm working on a couple others. President Tyrus asked me to update. I recently completed the injured at work. There seems to be a lot of miscommunication about when to inform who of an injury, when it happens, what the next steps are. So I just completed that one, and I'm working on an annual evaluation process. So those are the major ones.
Thank you. So it's I know the building was closed on 5/9. How did that training go?
It was more a conversation than a training, just reviewing them, making sure everyone was aware of the policy updates. They were mailed out after the fact, so everyone has written copies. I do want to, and this is a bigger task, so I want to do it, but I don't really know how yet, is I would love to see an electronic onboarding process from the city. Most platforms have a cost to them, which I don't think we can do right now. But included in that is annual reviews of policies. So people are signing off on an annual basis, saying they receive them, they understand them, if they have questions, and on an HR and knowing that people are reviewing them annually. So I think that's huge. So it's in my brain. I haven't figured out a way to do it yet.
Understood.
But
No,
they've
that's
signed off acknowledgement of receiving the new policy.
We did not sign off on receiving them. A couple of departments took it upon themselves to send them in saying they received them, but we did not request everyone to sign off on them. Just because then you have, your DPW, fire, police, they weren't at the, a couple people popped in, but they weren't there. So then it's a bigger picture of how do you get every single school employee, DPW employee. So that's why I would really love an electronic system, because if you have an email, you can sign off and receive these policies. Getting paper signatures from every single city employee is almost an impossible task.
So you'd want to ask the schools, because the schools, at the opening day, there's a list of their policies.
Okay.
The sexual harassment, there's the whole bunch. I haven't done it. Technology use and all that. They're on there. And after you read them, you have to sign an electronic signature. So the school's currently doing that.
Perfect.
In addition to that, every year you get the employee handbook, the faculty handbook.
Yep.
And then you also have to sign the back page that you received it.
Perfect.
So everybody has a printed copy, but the school's been doing that for years. I think there's at least 6 or 7 policies. Everybody's given, on the first professional development day, I think they're doing like an hour and a half, and everybody has to go through, and they have to sign off, they have a deadline, everybody has to sign off on.
Perfect. Well, that's half the battle right there. So.
Yeah, what we do is just a Google form for now. I mean, if there'll be a better system one day, but
Yeah.
it's worked.
Okay.
So if that's something in the meantime, that's maybe an idea.
Okay.
That's what you're doing.
You're acknowledging in the Google?
Yeah,
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 you're
you
acknowledging.
put the, I have read, it
Yeah.
says, you have
You
received
said
and
you
read,
have
da, da, da,
questions,
da, da.
right. Yep.
You do it for
Oh,
every
we have questions.
individual
Okay.
policy.
Yeah, that you've read it and you understand the policies and, and you agreed to, abide by the policies and stuff like that. So then you would have a record of who hasn't done it.
Exactly. Okay. Perfect.
Since you're right, since if money is a factor, it might be a nice
Yes,
easy way for
absolutely.
you to electronically collect.
Yep.
Save some trees and.
Yeah, that would definitely work for those who have city email addresses. It might be a little challenging I haven't run into this here, but some of the unions previously have gotten pushback. If they're a union employee and they don't have a city email, do we have to pay them for their time to read things off hours? And there are a couple logistic things that might come into play, but I absolutely think we need to modernize even our employee onboarding. It's very much needed.
At what point would a person not have a city email?
So like our DPW laborers do not. I believe all of fire and police do now, but DPW does not. I think they're the only ones as of right now.
Is there a reason? I'm just curious.
I'm just.
I don't. You might not know.
I've heard departmentally they didn't want them to have them at some point. I'm not entirely sure.
Put you on the spot, but I mean, I just think that for this purpose, you know what I mean, that they all have an email, they know on such and such
Absolutely.
a day, it's raining and everyone's gonna go,
Right.
go and do it. That's something that can be controlled within, you know what I mean? You can also disable the email address for a while, but it just doesn't make sense that, unfortunately, whether they want it or not, I would have loved not to have had a school email address, but we really, as employees, aren't given a choice in that matter, and I think maybe that needs to be reconsidered, but I think,
I absolutely agree.
because you need to have a record and I think people too, as employees, need a way to communicate and receive things, and get more with the times and have everything being done by paper. In my opinion.
Other random, on this social media, did it come up, the idea of even just using one page versus every department having their own page and just the city hall page? I know luckily Director O'Keefe has control of passwords supposedly for every but I wasn't sure.
No, so there hasn't been that conversation. Part of it is that he needs to be an administrator on every page created, so he does have access to that for, record request and moderation of the pages, but, that wasn't brought up.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm,
Curious.
of course.
That's all I had.
So you said the next thing's coming up, or at least trying to obviously the policy sign off,
Mhm.
but the annual evaluations, what's the current status of that process?
That I have submitted the top ones that I feel are, pretty much everyone still does good old fashioned paper and pen for evaluations. So I picked out a few that I recommend, just based on the ease. Some of them did not have goals. I think everyone should have goals. Some of them asked for self-evaluation, some of them did not, so I compiled a list, I sent them to the mayor of the ones that I would recommend. Then I'm just waiting for his response to find which ones he feels would be good. I still have questions myself, should these evaluations be tied to compensation? How would that work? So I have a lot of thoughts, but it hasn't been worked out as of yet.
Okay, and then obviously, then once those pieces were in place, there'd be some kind of timeline of, self-evals and then evals from the managers.
Exactly.
Department heads, and then a meeting to discuss the evaluations. and
Exactly.
then if and when compensation may or may not be able to tie to it, that would happen next.
Yep.
Perfect. That's all I had. I had nothing further at this time. Just thank you for all the
Thank
hard
you.
work.
Of
and
course.
all the
Yeah.
policies and what you're working on going forward. I think they're all great steps.
Perfect.
And thank you for coming today.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm open to discussion on how we'd like to handle this item on here. Do we want to continue to have updates on the policies and proposals?
I would, and actually think it might be worth moving to give an update to the full council too, on what we've learned today, and just working the hard work that's being done, and, but I'd be curious to see how the injured and evals and other things work out too.
Okay. I think that makes sense. So, motion to...
Update the full, keep this on our agenda, but also create a new item, update in the council on where things stand.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Hegland to keep the item on the agenda, but give an update to the council. Made by Councilor Hegland, seconded by Councilor Mack. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And we have item 11518, proposal by President Towers that the City Council discuss the current state of facilities management for all municipal buildings. Discussed at the last meeting a bit as well. It's obviously everything's kind of scattered with union and non-union employees. There's not one standard facilities manager. So I'm open to further discussion on the item if anyone has anything readily available for today.
I just, from the last meeting, when I watched it, there were very good questions asked, and I really think, Councilor Hagan, when you said, I think things could be maybe done better, more efficiently. It seems like there's a lot of people doing different things, and, I'm gonna use the example of Stonefield, the school department has their crew, DPW has their crew, nobody knows who's in charge, it never gets more, they're pointing at each other. But the staff is there to do it. That's a frustrating part. When I read this, I'm like, okay, they do have the people. You have to realize the schools are now condensed really to one big campus, with the exception of Bell. But I think, it's great to know who we have and how many people we have, but I just think that maybe things could be better organized.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that. I think we did a really good conversation.
Yeah.
I think the chairman also made a good point that it probably was just a case of things were added and fixed and done as needed, and it was never reviewed because it was going okay and working, but I think it is something, that is long overdue for a look. And maybe Director Morse might know this. We got the list, the letter. Are there any actual org charts of the departments and who's under who and?
So there was an org chart submitted with last year's budget, from my understanding. I do not know of anything other than that, and I fully agree. I think there needs to be a better structure, but Alec just said, I had a conversation with President Tyros about this, and it just makes it a little difficult because we have union, non-union, school department, police department, city, so it definitely needs some organization, but I just don't know how to do that with all the union involvement as well.
Okay, thank you. Would you be able to get us that org chart?
The one that was submitted already,
Yeah.
or are you looking for a whole revamped?
The one that was
Yeah,
submitted,
that was submitted,
If you
yeah.
have it at hand,
Yep.
if that's not
Yep,
a thing.
absolutely.
Thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I think I actually stopped and talked to Director Morris before this meeting about this item. And there's also a vacancy in the building department. The director has put in his 2 weeks' notice. So there may be an opportunity to try and reorganize how everything is done. This may be a good point to do that. I'm gonna continue conversations with her about this to see if maybe we can get something kind of hammered out, for lack of a better term, that at least does it in some fashion, if we're able to. Obviously, there will be issues could be issues depending on how we organize it, of funding for like a overarching position to manage all of them. It's just not clear yet, but hopefully with the chart and maybe able to get some more information, chat some more with the director. Hopefully we can have something further to discuss at the next meeting, and the mayor will most likely be here as well. Whether it's the next meeting, I know budget season's upon us here. With all these items that we say we're gonna discuss, the next meeting, it may be a couple meetings out next time they get brought up, but I think that obviously without any objection, I'd like to keep the item on our agenda.
Agreed.
I agree, and I just, to say what we're doing, and we're enlarging the senior center and the more care, with the needs of the pool, I think now is a really good time for us to keep it on our calendar and start looking at things.
No, it's even kind of interconnected with the Waterford Community Center project now that we're discussing it, so I think that makes sense. So if there's no further discussion, we'll keep item 11518 on the calendar.
Agreed.
Agreed.
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made by Councilor Hagman, second by Councilor Mack to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.